Storyblocks Audio. 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 Storyblocks Audio.
Check, check, testing mic check, test mic check.
Storyblocks Audio. 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 Skybox Audio.
Welcome to the Choose to Change 90-Day Reentry Program. If you are a visitor or new to this program, we welcome you and we are glad you are here. Many of us walked into these rooms not sure of what to expect, but many of us stayed because we saw real people with real problems who had real hope. This 90-Day Reentry Program is a self-supporting Christian group. There is no dues or fees to attend a class, but we do encourage donations from our members and to anyone who believes in what we are doing. The only requirement for membership is a sincere desire to change. So if you are ready to change your life, then you are in the right place. Through this program, you will learn the tools and resources to finally change your life forever, and a relationship-based support system to keep you going. For many of us, there is no easy way out of the mess we created in our lives, even if it wasn't your fault. I know it was my fault. But the good news is there is a way out if you will choose to believe in the impossible. So, my name is Leon Garcia, and I'm a member here of the Choose to Change program. I've done this 90-day reentry program just because I wanted to do it, because there was a lot of things going on in my life, man, when I first came here. And I was one of those guys that was sitting in the back of the classroom. I don't see anybody today doing that. But I was out there with my arms crossed thinking to myself, what can this convict teach me? He's a convict just like me. He's encerrado. ¿Qué me puede enseñar este guy? So I was sitting back there with my arms crossed thinking, man, what can he really teach me, And I was listening to him and just looking at what he was writing down and everything. He came up with these simple steps over here. Well, to me, they weren't simple, right? But right now that I've listened and I've learned stuff here from what Orlando teaches us, man, these steps here are super easy, but at the same time, they're real difficult for people like us from where we come from. Later on, you'll probably see Orlando where he puts us. We start off in the hole, and it's hard to get ourselves out of there. That's why it says here that, for many of us, it's easy. That's the normal people. We're not normal, We're abnormal. Yes, exactly. We're stuck in la la land, and finally, we get out of la la land and here we come, finally in our sober minds here, finally trying, or doing our best to try and do our best, but there's still something always lacking, and I know that, for me, it was Jesus Christ lacking in my life, to be able to continue to do what I was trying to do and to better myself and become the man and the father and the leader that God has called me to be, and that's why I'm here and I continue to come, and I just encourage all of you guys, lend an ear to Brother Orlando, just because, he was in prison. Well, I mean, that's what I thought, just because he was in prison or this or that, but he has a lot of knowledge because he read a lot, because he wanted to change his life, and that's what I see in him, and that's why I try and follow in his examples and all these teachings that he does, and guess what, guys, sometimes you get over here, but something else makes you come back all the way back, and it's just a process, brother. So trust the process. Let's trust in Jesus Christ, and let's give a hand out here to Orlando. He's out here to give us a word. Thank you.
Thank you, Leon. Leon, awesome. Let me welcome, guys. We're gonna have a lot to say today, so I hope you have your thinking hats on. I see Mr. Ramos is ready. He's going to the top. The thinking cap. Hopefully I can get into this. Well, welcome, guys. So just a couple announcements really quick. In 2 weeks, in 2 Saturdays from this Saturday, the 21st, we're having our, let me see, where is it? Barbecue sale. So we're raising money, selling barbecue plates. Every year, it really helps out. This year, it'll be at the McCoys in Edinburgh. So if anybody wants to sell some tickets or you want to buy some tickets, I have tickets to that you can take with you if you want to help us out. But if you can't, which is fine, if you can help us out on the day of, just being out there, maybe holding well, that's also true. We could also buy online. Maybe you have friends or family or Valentin, and he wants to help out. Well, we have a online way to buy a ticket where he just pays it, and that day he goes picks it up there. Simple as that. But the easiest thing to do is buy a ticket. You can pay it online. You can pay it on Cash App or cash. But in any case, that's Saturday, March 21st. Saturday, March 21st. And then the second announcement I want to make is a lot of really good things are coming around. We have the Center of Hope group going on right now. That's for family members that have a loved one struggling with drug addiction. For many of us men, that would be our wives or our mothers that had to deal with us, right? So that's what that class is for. And so then one of the things I'm going to start doing to promote not only this class, but our support group for the family members is I'm going to start doing free presentations on addiction and solution. And I'll announce this every week for the next 3 weeks, but on March 26th, which is in 3 weeks, March 26th, I will be having a presentation here in the concert hall, here in our event center, for anybody, so that you can invite somebody. Maybe your wife, maybe a coworker, maybe I'm also going to invite the church. So there's going to be plenty of people. But the idea is to get the word out, there of what we do. Number one, I'm going to educate family members and people who want to know about what drug addiction is and what the solution is, that's what this is all about. What drug addiction or alcoholism is and what the solution is. This is what these presentations are going to be. And this weekend, I'm going to do the presentation in Dallas. I'll be in Dallas this weekend. I'm leaving tomorrow. And so then, just to keep these things in mind as we move forward, this is called Request a Free Presentation for Your School or Organization, Understanding Addiction, What Every Family Member Should Know. What you will learn in this presentation is what addiction really is and why it's so hard to stop, the 4 phases of addiction, the solution to addiction, what helps people truly recover and change their lives, and the Dead Man Walking presentation, which is the story of my life. And I'll be doing these presentations to anywhere and anyone that's interested. It's part of what we're doing for our community, to serve our community, help some people move forward in life. As Leon was sharing and starting this, thank you, Leon. I can't help to think of so many people that are struggling in life. Always. This is what I think about all the time. From our youth to people in prison, coming out of prison, drug addicts. It's just everybody's somewhere in life and they're trying to move forward. And it's not always easy. And that's just part of the deal. And some people give up. Some people just raise their hands and say, F it. And that's just how it is. There's a song that I like hearing. It says, I'm not ready to bow down to the darkness. I'm not ready. I'm not ready for that. I'd rather believe in hope. And that's why I do what I do. So I'm going to read our scripture as I get started today out of Numbers 14:20. Numbers 14:20. And we're going to jump right into this. This is the story of Caleb and how he was part of the 12 spies that Moses had sent so that they could go see the promised land, or the land that God had promised them, the kind of life that God was promising they could have. And so then he sent some spies over, and this is a story on it. I'm going to read it, then we're going to move forward. Let's read it out of Numbers 14:20. It said like this: So the Lord said, I have forgiven them as you asked, but for sure as I live, this is Moses speaking, all the earth will be filled with the shining greatness of the Lord. All the men who have seen my greatness, this is God speaking there, and my wonderful works which I did in Egypt and in the desert, but they have put me to the test 10 times. Who's ever put God to the test? And have not listened to my voice. How many of us have been stubborn? That's what they were doing. They haven't listened to my voice. For sure, they will not see the land that I'm promising you. Si no haces caso, you're not getting it. That's just how it is. None of those who have turned away from me will see it, but my servant Caleb. Me gusta esta historia. But my servant Caleb, he has a different spirit, a different mindset, a different attitude. And he has followed me fully every step of the way. He says, I will bring him into the land where he went, not only him, but his children also. What was the difference? Attitude. So let's pray and ask God to help us. I want to talk about attitude, your superpower. Father, thank you, Lord God, for these group of men and women. I thank you for what you're doing tonight, Father. Help me, Father, to minister, to teach, to speak. Help me to articulate what I'm trying to get through, Father, to these men, that they would move forward in life, that I would help them, Father, as they make decisions in their lives. Father, I commit this into your hands. In Jesus' name I pray. Amen. There was 2 workers. Imagine these 2 men working in the exact same job, in the exact same place. They wake up at the same time. They drive to the same place. And they do the same tasks. They both work at the same place. But if you would ask how they're doing, how their life is going, you would hear 2 different completely stories. 2 very completely different stories. The first man would say, man, I hate my job. I hate my boss. Nothing ever works out for me. Life is hard. The second man says, I'm just grateful. I heard a man tell me that today. I'm just grateful I have a job. I'm learning new skills. I'm getting better every day. I'm building something for my future. 2 different men, 2 different stories. The same job, the same environment, the same boss, the same tasks, the same company, but completely different lives. Why? Because one man is being controlled by circumstances. The other man is using his attitude as a superpower. He's using his attitude as a superpower. I'm telling you, I had to do this. Your attitude doesn't change your circumstances immediately, but it changes how you respond to them. Listen closely. And it's that response, how you respond to your circumstances, that eventually changes your life. That's how it works. Attitude. Your superpower. Tonight I want to talk to you a little bit about something every one of us has that is more powerful than any circumstance, more powerful than any problem, and more powerful than any giant in your life that you're facing right now. I want to talk about your attitude, your superpower. Itaira, ya mero le ponía superpower, pero. So the whole idea, I like what you said, Leon, is that sometimes this is how we come in here. We come in here broken. We come here with a desire. We come in here with an idea of what could be, with some kind of hope, faith. And I love putting these little stair-like illustration here, because that's kind of like how life is. We got to climb. And I like, I told you, we've been talking about mindset in the last 2 to 3 weeks. And what I told you is that I'm going to be reflecting back on mindset, because your mindset, how you think, affects your attitude. It will affect it. And your attitude affects your habits. And your habit affects your lifestyle. And your lifestyle affects your destiny or your results. They go together. And so then I'm going to be talking about these 3 things here in the next 2 or 3 weeks. Life, the greatest value in life is not what you get. Everybody's worried about what they're going to get right now. How much money I'm going to make right now. What I need right now. And then you say, well, I don't feel good. I don't have what I need. I don't have a car. I don't have a great job. I don't have this. I don't have that. The greatest value is not what you get. The greatest value is what you become. Your attitude is more important than your aptitude. Your attitude is more important than your aptitude. Anybody know what aptitude means? We'll get there. Hang on. So what I want to do tonight is just go through a few attitudes. I'm going to go through a few attitudes that I think that you need to be aware of, so that you can, keep yourself in check. Because I say this all the time about attitude. It's like a flat tire. If you don't fix it, you ain't going nowhere. That's just how it is. So, I want a few attitudes I want you to keep in mind. So here we go. Anybody have any questions right here? Comments? We can get right into it. Let me give you the first attitude that's really common and that we have to watch out for. It's that attitude of pessimism. Attitude of pessimism. Pues, ¿qué es eso? A pessimist. Anybody ever meet a man with a pessimist kind of attitude? What is that? Pessimist is someone that's very negative, that always looks at the bad things in life. They always look at the bad circumstance. They're always looking at the things that are, it doesn't matter how good it is. Like those 2 workers I tell you about. The same job, same place, same everything. But because one is a pessimist and the other one is an optimist, meaning he's a positive person, they see 2 totally different things. The pessimist is the one that blames everybody and everything for their life misery. They have this blame list, I call it. They carry it around. It's an attitude of pessimism. Carrying them around. I don't have enough money because they don't like me. They don't pay me enough. The company is messed up. The boss is messed up. The government is messed up. I got a big X on my back. That's a big one. And you might. You know about that, right? You know, when I was in prison, I'd hear this a lot. I said, hombre, es que cuando salgas, es que un convicto no puede agarrar trabajo. And in my mind, I say, I didn't understand that. I said, I'm going to get a job. I didn't have a pessimistic attitude. I said, you'll never change. No, I'm going to change. Well, you're not going anywhere. No, I'm going to the top. I had a positive attitude. The pessimist attitude I learned a long time ago that won't get me nowhere. Let me tell you where I learned this. I like this story. You're going to like this story, Leon. I've never been a pessimist, even in my drug addiction. If they told me, ya no hay. Ya no hay. Ya no tiene. No, necesitamos más pase ya. Ya no hay. ¿Cómo que no hay? I go find it. I go look for it. Es que no se puede. ¿Cómo que no se puede? And I realized that that's a very optimistic view. I was very optimistic about getting the next high. I know what it means to do whatever it takes to go get it. That's what you need in life. That's why we get all real wired up about when I'd hear motivational speakers, when I'd hear Rocky and Balboa, when I would see these great athletes, these great leaders, these great people say, I was here and I came here. How did you do it? I wanted to know. They said, you got to get rid of your pessimistic attitude. Always blaming the economy, your parents. Focusing on the obstacles. Experts, always expecting failure. Making excuses. It's not going to get you anywhere. It's a bad attitude to have. That's a pessimistic attitude. Stop being a pessimist. Stop pissing on everything. In other words, that's what that means. So that's one attitude we got to watch out for, man. Here's another one for you. This one I did not quite understand until it was explained to me. So let me explain it. Como dice Pastor. The indifference attitude. You have an indifferent attitude. When I heard it, I said, what does that mean? I have a different attitude. Okay, I got it. No, an indifferent attitude. All this means is that attitude, brother, que dice, I don't give a. That attitude. That's what you call an indifferent attitude. I don't care. I don't care what you think. I don't care what he thinks. I don't care. Hey, you know the boss? I don't care. Hey, pastor, I don't care. It's an indifferent attitude. This one concerns me the most. One preacher said, it's a characteristic of it's a character that, no, it doesn't work. This kind of character, this kind of indifferent attitude has no goals. They have no urgency. They have no personal growth plan. They have no desire to move forward in life, to do anything. They just kind of coast through life. ¿Qué será? ¿Qué será? Es que así es. It is what it is. He believes indifference is dangerous, is more dangerous than failure. You can overcome failure. But being indifferent, not caring what anybody says, Indifference puts you to sleep. But some people like smoking weed. They don't want to worry about nothing. They just want chill. They're indifferent. They don't care. Another one. Here's another one for you. And many of us know about this one. We have a lot of people like this in America. And that is the entitlement attitude. You feel entitled. And it's kind of interesting. I didn't understand this entitlement attitude either very much. But it's kind of like when you don't have to worry about anything, when you don't have to worry where you're going to sleep or where you're going to eat, or if, when you don't have to worry about it, puts you to sleep, I guess. Como dice el indifferent attitude. We think we deserve something. We deserve more. No. I learned this a long time ago. I don't deserve anything. Nobody owes me anything. My mom doesn't owe me anything. My family doesn't owe me anything. My wife doesn't owe me anything. The courts, the parole office, they don't owe me anything. Life is just hard. That's all there is to it. And I have to get up there and go get it. Right? That's how it works. I can't feel like, and I really believe that this is one of the characteristics of my life that really helped me. Because I wasn't looking for a handout. I wasn't looking for easy. I wasn't looking for, pues mira, yo, pobrecito yo. No. I was looking, just tell me what to do. Tell me what to do. I'll do it. And it worked out for me. I still have that attitude. This characteristic believes success should come without no discipline. They believe they want results without action or personal growth, personal development, personal change. They compare instead of try to improve. They feel entitled. Listen to this. One of the big things when people get jobs, right? We feel like, and all of us feel like we should be paid more, right? Everybody feels that way. If you get paid $8 an hour, you think you should have 10. If you get $10 an hour, you think you should get 12. If you get 12, and on and on and on. If you're making $20 an hour, the one with 10 says, te estás reando. And the one with 20 says, no, pero aquel te da tanto 30. No, you don't get paid for an hour. You get paid for the value you bring to the hour. If you want to make more money, I'm not going to go into this one, but you have to become more valuable. I just take llévate ese nomás, ahí en la bolsa. If you want to make more money, you have to become more valuable. So the question you should be asking yourself is, how do I become more valuable? How do I become more valuable? I had to learn these things. And a big part of that had to do with my character. Because you have to remember, I was in prison. And I was in prison with everybody else. We all had the same clothes on. We had the same warden. We had the same everything. And why was I able to stand out? Because I didn't feel entitled. I didn't have a pessimist attitude. I didn't have an attitude of indifference. I cared. It mattered. I had what I call a responsible attitude. And this was the ideal attitude to have, to be responsible. I never thought about that as an attitude. Responsible? Okay, I can be responsible, but I never thought about it as an attitude. Being responsible is an attitude. In other words, it doesn't matter how you're feeling in the morning, you get up because you have some responsibilities to go take care of. You're going to be responsible. You have an attitude of responsibility. If it's going to change, if anything's going to change, you have to change it. The characteristics of being responsible is taking ownership, investing in yourself, like you did, Leon. You know, when you're working for someone, you're investing in yourself. Don't ask what you're doing there. You should be asking, what am I becoming here? Invest in your behavior. Adjust it. This is what we're talking about, attitude. Embrace discipline. I remember I heard a saying, I will see if I can remember it. You're going to suffer two pains in life. You're going to suffer two pains in life. You're either going to suffer the pain of discipline, or you're going to suffer the pain of regret. Otra para la bolsa, brother. You're either going to suffer the pain of discipline. In other words, it's not easy to do the right thing every day, again and again and again and again. But once you get to a certain point, you start reaping. You're suffering the pain of discipline. Even when you don't feel like it, you're doing it. The pain of, and by the way, discipline weighs ounces. Está bien levianito. Compared to the weight of regret. Regret is what you feel when you get arrested. Regret is what you feel when you get drunk again and you're in rehab, or you relapse again and you're messing up again. Regret. Don't wish things were easier. One of my mentors said, wish you were better. This kind of little mindsets, these kind of little twists and thoughts is what really helped me. It's an attitude. How about an attitude of gratitude? This is a good one too. An attitude of gratitude. When you're grateful, kind of like those two men that we talked about at the beginning. One was grateful for his job. He was grateful for what he had. He was grateful to be alive. He was grateful. Not that everything was great. He was grateful. And the more grateful you become, the more you can see the mercy of God, the grace of God. Gratitude or attitude has a long-term vision. Shapes everything. Shapes your income, shapes your relationships, shapes your health, shapes your influence. This stuff is big. Attitude of gratitude. Talking about attitudes. Anybody have anything here before I start closing? Yes, sir.
this one right here, I was trying to look it up, Orlando, and I found it by the 90-10 principle, famously popularized by Charles Swindoll and Stephen Covey. States that 10% of life is what happens to you. You can't control that 10%. While 90% is how you react to it.
That's it.
This mindset emphasizes that your attitude determines your altitude. And that your attitude determines, enabling you to control the outcomes and reduce stress and overcome challenges. Now, the definition is that you cannot control 10% of events like the traffic, the lights, the weather, and other actions, but you have absolute control over your 90% over your 90% reaction.
Yep. And I had an illustration similar to that. Because that's kind of like the set of the sails. You remember the set of the sails? Same boat, same sails, same winds, same water, different set of sails is what takes you to a different path. Your sails are your attitude. You know, there's a, maybe you can look this up también. In a plane, there's something that keeps control of the, it's called the attitude. I don't know. Yeah, but something that piece of little deal, it's called the attitude. I can't remember what it is. But it measures how high and how low your plane will go. It's what measures the altitude and that thing. Well, that's our attitude. I think it's called attitude. And that's our measurement. So let me close with this because here's a question for you. Are you a thermostat? Or are you a thermometer? Are you a thermostat? Or are you a thermometer? What's the difference? Can anybody tell me what the difference between a thermostat and a thermometer? Well, let me tell you. A thermostat, let's start about with a thermometer. A thermometer only reflects the environment. It only reflects the environment. It just tells you what the environment's like. If it's cold, it reads cold. If it's hot, it reads hot. It just reacts to the environment. Are you a thermometer? Just reacting to the environment? It adjusts to whatever surrounds them. So if he's around Vato Locos forever, he's a Vato Loco forever. If he's around with the guys drinking, he's drinking. If blind leading the blind. You're just a thermometer. In life, this is the person whose attitude is controlled by the circumstances. In other words, is this a person that always blames his environment for why he's not doing well in life? Always blaming his environment. He's a thermostat. I mean, a thermometer. He just measures. Right? This is the person that blames the economy, blames his past, blames the trauma, blames the addiction, blames his spouse. What we've been talking about. That's what a thermometer does. It just measures the environment. So the question is, are you a thermometer or a thermostat? Let me get here. Here's what thermometers say. I can't help it. That's just how I am. You understand what I've been through. If things were different, I'd be different. Can you see it? It's a thermometer. He's affected by his environment. And it's true, we are. We're affected by a thermometer. They don't set the temperature or the environment, they just report it. On the other hand, the thermostat is a whole different story. I'm a thermostat. I learned this and I said, I want to be a thermostat. So the question was, are you a thermometer or a thermostat? A thermostat doesn't reflect the environment, it changes it. Think about that for a minute. If the room's too cold, it makes it hot. If it's too hot, it activates the cooling. You see the difference? He doesn't settle. He doesn't say, well, this is how it is. This is how I grew up. No. This is how I'm going to be. Why do you think I came up with a going to the top phrase? Go for it.
When you go into the process of change, can you be both?
Can you do both what?
When you go in, when you're a work in progress, in recovery or change, right?
Mm-hmm.
Can you be both? Can you experience both?
Yes.
A thermometer and a thermostat.
Yes, you can.
Because you're trying to.
It's a
have control.
choice.
It's a choice, but you're work in progress. You're trying to control your emotions. Some of them you can't.
Yeah.
Some emotions you can, some you cannot.
Yeah, I
And
get it. I get it.
So you can be both, while you're making progress to become the thermostat.
That's correct. No, you're right. I get it. I understand. This class is not about being perfect or perfection. It's about helping you decide which way you want to go. Which way you're going. But if you know you're a thermometer all the time, you have to decide. And you know what? The thermometer says, this is not where I'm going. I'm going somewhere else. The thermometer says, this stops today. I mean, the thermostat says, this stops today. I'm not going to be controlled by anything any longer. Enough is enough. For things to change, you have to change. That's how it works. I thought it was the circumstances that had to change. I thought it was the judge that had to change. I thought it was my mother that had to change. I thought it was my circumstances that had to change. No. I learned that if for things to change, I have to change. That's why I called this ministry Choose to Change. I can't change the environment. I can't change the economy. I can't change the rehab. I can't change my spouse. I can't change those things. 10%, I can't change it. But I can change 90% of how I react, how I respond, and what I do. I can't change my childhood. I can't change the past abuse. I can't change that I didn't have a father. I can't change it. Eric Thomas says, he ain't coming. I can't change it. All I can change is my response to my trauma, to my past, to my circumstance. I can change my response, how I respond. The question is not what temperature the world is set at. The question is, are you a thermometer or are you a thermostat? Addiction reacts. Recovery decides. You see how this little twist in thoughts changes everything? This is how this works. You know, in our story, I read you the story of Caleb in the Bible. Moses once had sent 12 spies to spy out the land, the promised land that God was going to give us. And their assignment was really simple. Go check it out, go see what it looks like, go see if it's good, and bring a report back. That was the mission. So they went. 12 spies went. 40 days later, they came back. They saw the land. They saw the fruit. They saw the giants. They saw the land. They saw the fruit. It was good. They saw the giants. But something interesting happened. 10 of them said, "We can't do it." We can't do it. There's no way. The people are too big. They're too strong. We're just like grasshoppers. But two of the other men saw the exact same thing. They saw the giants. They saw the fruit. They saw the land. And they stood up and said, "We can do this. We can take it. We can change it. Is God cannot told us we could? We can." And they said, in Numbers 13:30, he said, "Let us go up at once and take this land, because we are well able to overcome." Now think about that for a moment. What was the difference? What's the difference in these men? Again, same circumstances, same giants, same fruit. It was the attitude. It was the spirit. It was completely different. This is what changes everything. It's been said that attitude is everything. Listen, I don't know if attitude is everything, but I tell you what, it's right up there with air and water. It's up there. Before I continue, go ahead, Leon. Mr. Ramos.
Yes, sir. What I wanted to say about Caleb was that Caleb saw the signs and the miracles and the wonders that God was doing.
But so did the other ones.
Yes,
They
yes.
saw it too.
Yes, but Caleb, and it goes hand in hand with the structure that you have right there. He desired the promised land. Caleb believed in God, and this guy was at 40 years old, and then 40 years later, he was already 80 years old. He said, "I can go." All the other Israelites could not go to the promised land except him and Joshua. So Caleb was already 80 years old, but he had the same strength he had while he was 40 years old. But yeah, I just wanted to go back to the first step is the desire. He desired the promised land.
Desired it.
And the same thing with us, what do you desire in life, And I ask myself, I want a different life,
You want a different life. You got to keep on wanting it. And so then, there was no different circumstances, no different opportunities. They just had a different spirit. In fact, the way God put it is that, let me read it. He said, "But my servant Caleb has a different spirit." He has a different attitude from the very beginning, ever since he was 40. Because at the age of 85, he looked at the mountain And he said, give me that mountain. I can take it. He wasn't asking for comfort. He wasn't asking for the mountain. He wasn't asking for comfort. He was asking for the mountain with giants. It's your attitude. Is your superpower. Amen? Does anybody have any questions here? No? We never pass around the donation bucket, brother? Y no tengo dinero ahora. Pues, quedé mal. So, ayúdame, Rion. You mind if I take 5 more minutes, guys? I think I wanted to touch on, earlier I talked about aptitude. What does aptitude mean? I'm going to give you the difference between aptitude, ability, and attitude. Aptitude is a natural potential. It's a potential. You're apt to do something. Aptitude is your natural talent or potential of what you can become, what's possible. It is what comes naturally or easy for you to learn. It's an aptitude, it's an ability that you develop, or could develop. It's not an ability. Someone may have an aptitude for music, for an aptitude for leadership, an aptitude, in other words, they're kind of wired that way. They have a potential, right? Think of aptitude of what you are naturally wired for, like I said. Aptitude is natural potential to learn or to grow. That's aptitude. Ability is a little easier to understand, right? Ability is something that you develop. Ability is what you can actually do right now. Your abilities. Because you have practiced and you learned it. You have some abilities and overflows. You have abilities. I have ability in remodeling. I have ability in speaking. I've practiced it. I trained. I have experience. I'm disciplining. A carpenter has the ability to build cabinets. A speaker has the ability to communicate. A mechanic has the ability. He's able. Aptitude, ability. Simply put, ability is a skill you have developed. Now check this out. We'll close with this. Attitude is your mindset. Back to the mindset. I'm telling you, it's everything. Attitude is how you think, respond, and approach life. If your mindset or your perspective, it's your outlook in life, attitude, how you see things, a spirit towards situations, positive attitude. This is why, and I love sharing this story, and I'll close with this. That's how I came up with that shirt name. I'm going to the top. And I said that in prison when I first got there. I remember walking to the Garza West and a guy coming up to me and telling me, who are you running with? And in my mind, man, I'm excited, man. I got a 6.5-year sentence. I'm like, man, I'm going home. I'm a Christian. We can change my life. And I looked at him and I said, listen, with all due respect, brother, but I don't know what you're talking about, and I don't care. I'm a Christian man. I'm going to change my life. I'm going to the top. And And that's how I started my journey, guys. I started my journey like that. Have I fallen flat on my face? You better believe it. But I had an attitude. And I found out that it was my superpower. An attitude of gratitude is powerful. It's your superpower. Amen? All right. That's all I have, guys. Thank you for coming. Thank you for watching. Awesome.